Beyond the Seabag. What is Beyond the Seabag? Sometimes people piss you off and it's like, man, I want to get this motherfucker a blanket party.
A lot of these things are going to be really shitty. So, and that's the truth about these programs. Nobody wants to talk to you anymore. Your family don't want to talk to you. They're scared of you. But you guys kind of fucked me. So I'm pretty pissed off right now. I'm not a doctor. I ain't gonna freaking go over diagnoses and bullshit like that. I'm just gonna tell you, the stuff I'm going through. I'm gonna say something stupid, because that is stupid. That would not have ended well. So I think I want to start doing is sweating my ass off in a sleeping bag and having nightmares and shit. He's a pretty lazy dog, very lazy actually, and he's got a lot of quirks. If you haven't started the process already of getting a counselor, getting in there, it's like, do that.
Welcome to Beyond the Seabag. This episode is going to be Children of PTSD. This will be the first episode where I actually have guests, the guests being my daughter and son. So they are going to be telling their experiences about growing up and how any of the PTSD that I had while they were growing up affected them. I am not going to tell them what to say. I'll probably give them a few questions that I'm going to ask just so they're not sideswiped by anything. I've got a list of stuff that I want to talk about, but it's basically about their experiences and how they grew up with it. So like I said, I'm not telling them what to say. This is totally on them, and whatever they say, they're going to say. So it's going to be kind of an eye-opening experience for me, depending on what they say, I guess, right? I hope I did the right things when they were growing up. I know all fathers, all good fathers anyway, or they try to be good fathers, are always worried about the lessons they taught their kids, and hopefully they listen. Was it good advice? Was it bad advice? We're going to find all that out right now. So, like I said, I do this podcast for all my veteran brothers and sisters out there, but this also helps me as well, too. This is the first time I've ever asked my kids about this sort of stuff, so I'm not sure what's going to come out. But it's all about moving forward and healing, I guess, if there's any healing to be done. So, all right, let's get into it. All right, this is Dave with Beyond the Seabag. I have my daughter Rebecca here, and this is Children of PTSD episode. So we went over a few things on paper, but I'm going to just get right into it. So let me introduce my daughter Rebecca. Say hi, Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
So as I said in the intro, I have not told Rebecca what to say or given her any pointers or anything like that. Whatever she's going to say, she's free to say. I did give her a kind of overview on what we were going to be talking about, but that's about it. So, growing up, both your mother and I were both veterans. We both were in the Marine Corps. Now, as far as you can remember, was there anything in your childhood that you saw as different from any of the other households or families or kids that you played with? As far as how the rules went, how the upbringing was done, the respect in the house, that kind of stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like I always saw us as a little bit different, but I feel like that could be for a couple different factors, and just you two being in the military was probably just one of them.
Okay, now I know I know I took you to a lot of martial arts classes right from the get-go, and I have pictures of you pretty much, shit, you have to be, I don't know, maybe 5. I could be 5, 6, maybe somewhere in there. You were at the dojo all the time, even when you were little, as well too, even before you guys started taking. But martial arts in and of itself, do you think that helped you along the way in school, growing up, and all aspects of your life, I guess, or any aspects of your life?
I think so. I feel like having done it for so long, it kind of helped shape who I am as a person, even if I don't do it so much anymore. I feel like the one key takeaway, aside from the self-defense itself, that I got out of it was just confidence in myself.
To a couple things that you had said along the way as well, too, about, I don't know how much your mother was geared in towards security. I know I was right from the beginning, and taking security precautions and always telling you about the strangers down the road and don't talk to strangers and don't get in the vans and all kinds of other crap like that. Well, it's not crap, but and I know at one point you had said that you had reservations about security, and some of that stuff kind of bothered you because you were becoming hypervigilant, which is part of a transference of PTSD on the children. Do you think that was a factor growing up?
Like the PTSD?
The PTSD that I had, a lot of it was about security and welfare of the family, this and that. Now, did that transfer that, I don't know if you want to call it paranoia, hypervigilance, anxiety about that kind of stuff, was there any transference that you recognize growing up?
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I I feel like that's one of the biggest things. Because sometimes, I guess, it's almost hard to tell in today's world, because I feel like just in general, it's a lot more dangerous, so a lot of people in general have gotten a lot more vigilant because they have to, but I feel like I've always been like that, hyper vigilant. And it does feel like overkill sometimes. I feel like I got that from you, where it's like, I don't know, especially since buying my own house and having my own space now. And I mean, this happened whenever I'm like home alone, but especially now since I have my own space, every single little creak I hear, I'm like, I have to grab 6 knives because someone's trying to break in. And I'm like, even before I was moving in, I was like, I was just automatically like, where can I store ridiculous weapons that I like don't need for no reason? I'm gonna buy a Morning Star and put it in the fireplace just in case. So I sometimes it just feels like a little bit overkill. I feel like I feel like overall it can be a good thing, because I'm always aware of my surroundings, like always, but it of course, when you skew too far to one side is when it becomes a problem. So it would be good if I was just aware of my own surroundings, but I feel hyper vigilant and like paranoid most of the time. Even, I don't know, any simple mundane task. I'm at the grocery store and I see someone glance in my direction for half a second, and I'm like, they're probably gonna catch me out by my car and try and kill. Like, that's probably not gonna happen, but that's where my mind goes. But yeah, I feel like I skewed a little bit too far to one side. I feel like
Yeah, and what you're describing is just about every single vet out there. I used to store up all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to say what any of this stuff was, but there was a lot of stuff around the house, and there still is a lot of stuff around this house too today. So, and I think that's, I don't think I ever told you to do that, but I'm sure you knew that I mean, I've always carried stuff, so you always saw that growing up, I think. But
yeah, no, you never directly told me to do any of that stuff, but I feel like it's been so perhaps like ingrained to the point where I'm like, that's, like I said before, like that's my just immediate like first thought is, where can I store weapons around the house so I'm like constantly like I have this I guess feeling of being protected in a sense.
And congratulations too on buying your own house.
Thank you.
I'm finding out that the more and more you take out of this house to your house, I don't have shit around here. I really don't have shit around here. So, got a few pots and pans. I gave you some silverware and plates and stuff like that. Put some new ones out, but I really don't have shit. All my shit's in the garage and pretty much the studio, really. And not too much, but that's fine with me. I don't need a lot of stuff. But so as far as like everyday routines and stuff like that, has any of that affected you as far as hypervigilance goes? That was maybe transferred. You seen. I don't remember your mom doing a lot of this stuff. Your mother was kind of OCD, I know, with cleaning and stuff like that. Did that transfer over? That's one thing I can talk about because I do remember that stuff. But did that kind of, I mean, looking at your room when you were growing up as a kid and your room now, the organizational skills probably aren't, I don't see too much OCD going on up there at all.
Yeah, no, but I would like to also note that I have pretty bad ADHD, and having all of my all of my belongings in one small space is just straight up not going to be organized ever. And having moved most of my stuff into my house, I'm already I feel like I don't think you're gonna believe this, but I know that I know how I am, having it all be mine and knowing I'm completely solely responsible for everything. I'm gonna keep that house clean and like insanely organized. Clean is one thing I've never been, but organized I am. So
I used to call it organized piles.
Pretty much, or organized chaos. But I know where everything is.
Yeah, and when we're talking about organizational stuff, and I know growing up, you kept pretty much everything. And I remember going sometimes through your room and saying, "Hey, we can throw this away," and you're like, "No." So, but I mean, there's still some stuff up in your room that I remember that there's a little robot up there that we threw away. I think your mom threw it away or something. I can't remember. And I grabbed it for you, and I said I would keep it safe for you, and it's still up in your room. And I think you hid cash in it for a little while.
Yeah.
So, but
I'm a bit of a hoarder, and I got attachment issues when it comes to items.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from. I just do not like throwing certain things away. And I think part of that is anxiety with certain things, because it's like, well, if I throw this away right now, even though I've had it for 20 years and I've never touched it once, the second I do, I'm going to need it, and then I'm going to have to buy another one, which has happened. It happens all the time, but there's a ridiculous amount of things that I have that I just, there's no reason for me to have them.
Now getting into some of the symptoms, I guess, of PTSD. Well, no, let's take this first. There's two kind of philosophies with PTSD and parents, and one is that they don't tell their kids anything, and then there's the other that says they pretty much tell their kids everything, and I guess there's stuff in between or whatever like that. But as far as you're concerned, how do you think you got enough knowledge as to why things like that were going on, or there wasn't any? I mean, there wasn't any reason to ask, or was it too much? Was it too little? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Kind of. I suppose I never had a reason to ask. Sometimes he said things and I was like, oh, that's a cool story, and like very occasionally as a kid I'd be like, oh, like ask questions about it. Yeah.
I know your brother asked a lot about when he got older, because he was always interested in the Civil War and that kind of stuff, so he was always asking about military kind of stuff. But anyway, like I said before, the symptoms of PTSD, one being anxiety. Oh, there's a bunch of symptoms, but we're going to go over the major ones. One is anxiety, one is anger, and the other is depression.
So as far as all those three, I know those are, when you start getting into depression, that's a touchy subject or whatever, and you don't have to say whatever you want to say. But as far as anxiety, anger, and depression goes, did you see that in any of mine or your mom's personalities or whatever? And how did that affect you to this day? Did any of that stuff affect you, basically? Did ever any of that transfer over to you? Do you think any of that was a result of if you have any of those kind of things going on to this day? Do you think that was...
This is another, like, transference question,
Yeah,
kind of?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I do. I deal with all three of those things, and, but, like, whether it's due to that specifically, I think there's many factors that go into it. Transference, perhaps just, being one of them, but, it does affect me, but literally everything that you see when you're a kid, you're malleable. How could it not? What you see is what you learn. That's kind of sticks in your brain, and that's the blueprint of how you live your life until you learn differently.
Right. So do you have any of those, I'm not going to ask you to, like, describe anything, but out of those three things, what do you think you struggle with the most?
It's a good question. I don't know if I could put a ranking on them, but I don't know. Maybe anger.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah, maybe anger. I do. Yeah, anger and anxiety is a very, very close second. Yeah, I do struggle with anger issues quite a bit. So.
Yeah, and I've
Short
seen that,
fuse.
and I've seen that, and I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that, but I was just going to say, yes, she is angry sometimes.
Short fuse. I mean, even my, like, I feel like...
You're definitely my daughter.
Yeah. I feel like that's very much ingrained in... I don't want to say ingrained in my personality, because I don't want to say that, like, anger is a personality trait, like, get therapy. But, like, it goes into, I guess, it affects how I carry myself, to where, I mean, like, people, pretty much everyone that knows me on a personal level, like, even my coworkers, for example, something stupid will happen. Someone will, like, as a joke, someone will, start messing with me, and people will be like, "Oh, be careful! You do not want to do that with her." And I kind of just, like, build a reputation of, not necessarily being angry, but, like,
Don't mess with me.
do not mess with this person.
Yeah.
Not a good idea.
And I've actually had a couple episodes on talking stuff about that. It just, leave me the fuck alone. And people just want to mess with you sometimes, and it just leave me alone.
Yeah, and the older I get, I feel like the more it's hard to say. It was a lot less controlled when I was younger, and now that I'm a little bit older, I still deal with those, but, like, I find it honestly pretty easy to not lash out, but, like, get very close to that point where I'm, like, going back and forth in my head, like, do I, like, go up to this person and, like, start fighting them? Like, pretty 0 to 100 pretty fast.
The last thing I want to talk about is relationships, because that was one of the, it's not a symptom or anything like that, but it's one of the things that a lot of veterans, I'd probably say, like, I don't want to say like 99, but it's got to be up there in the percentage wise, because I'll tell you what, when I was in the programs, the majority of the stuff that we were talking about was about relationships and how fucked up they were, and we burn them all down, and we don't know why. Did that, as far as you go, how is that affected? Because I know you went through a lot of stuff with me and your mom because we got divorced and everything like that, and then after that, and I'm not going to go into all that nonsense, but I know it was rough for you guys. You were 10, Zach was 8, so that's a pretty young age, and I know there was a lot of fucked up shit that happened back then. And how did that affect you personally?
I think a better question is, how did it not affect me personally? I don't know. I feel like I see a lot of repeated patterns the older I get in my relationships compared to whether like romantic or platonic or whatever relationships. I see a lot of similarities and certain patterns repeated, similar to what I saw growing up. It just definitely not affected me in my relationships. I feel like that question is like a little too broad for me to answer.
When you have like two, I mean, I don't want to bring up anything from the past or anything, dredge up that nonsense, but when you have two type A personalities, and we were clashing all the time towards the end of that whole thing when you were about 8 and 10 years old. And I know it was rough for you guys as far as, fighting for custody and the hours, the split custodies and all the rest of that stuff. I mean, you guys didn't, I don't remember you saying too much. I know Zach had a lot to say about it. I had a rough go with him, so we'll talk about all that with Zach. But you kind of pretty much glided through. But yeah, I only remember a couple outbursts from you. Nothing significant or nothing like that. But I remember you mentioning something about you just want to be level-headed about the whole thing and cooler heads prevailed type thing, and didn't want to rock any boats and just try to be nice to everybody. And that's kind of what your thing was back then, I think.
Yeah, I think that was more of defense mechanism is not the correct term. There's probably some pop psychology term for it, but that was my way of just like trying to stay out of conflict the best I could. I think me and my brother were both struggling very similar amounts, but I think his was more external, mine was more internal.
All right, last question I have for you. Every parent wants to know, or we hope, and when you guys have kids, hopefully you'll see this too, and the reasons why we did some of the things that we did. And this is with any parent, any good parent, I think anyway, always wants to give the best advice to their kids, right? Now, usually say dads and vets, they're like, yeah, that's fucking horrible advice, but you kind of have, I think, a way of telling advice, and it looks like it's horrible advice, but hopefully it was good advice, if you can think of any anyway, but it was more straightforward. It wasn't be nice to everybody and unicorns and rainbows and stuff like that. We're kind of like, don't talk to strangers and you get kidnapped and you'll never see them again, that kind of stuff. But as far as all the advice that I gave you, what is your view on the advice that I gave you? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it anything that sticks out that you can remember?
Can't think of specifics now. I think overall it was pretty solid, but sometimes you have a way of delivering advice and it's like, why are you saying it like that? Because it's like,
you're gonna die.
Pretty much like harsh in a way. It's like it's like overkill almost, and like when you bring it back down back down a notch, it's like, oh, okay, I understand what he's saying. It just kind of sounds insane. Like, it's actually pretty solid. Yeah, I mean, that goes with pretty much everything I think we were taught. I feel like again, most of it was said in such a way where it's just you kind of had to decipher it a little bit. It's like, and also kind of have to discover on your own that not every person is trying to kill you, but maybe just some people, or hopefully nobody at all, or
maybe everybody.
But yeah, pretty solid. Just a little rough around the edges.
So I gave you good advice. Thank you. I think that's about it, and thanks for your candid input, and wait for the episode to come out, all right? Love you.
Cool. Love you, Dad.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
I'd like to thank Rebecca for listening to all the questions and answering them in her own words. We did have some trouble with the audio and kind of video on this thing. This was the first time that I had an actual guest, so everything didn't work out the way I wanted it to as far as the technicalities of the podcast goes. So that's going to be fixed on our next episode, hopefully. I did decide to do a part 2 instead of trying to throw both of my kids in this one episode. I kind of decided that I'd like to focus on one and then focus on the next one after that, to give them both their due time and what they want to say, because their experiences are going to be different. So I'd like to give both of them that equal opportunity to speak and say what they're going to say. So part 2 of Children of PTSD will be the next episode, and that will feature my son Zach. So, and he'll have his story to tell as well too. So stay tuned for that. All right. Thanks for watching.